The Story of Louis Braille. Part 1. Everyone has heard of the Braille system of reading for the blind, but few people know why it is called the Braille system or who Louis Braille was. In the year 1812, Louis Braille was a very small boy. He lived in a small town in France. Louis's father had a small shop in which he made things of leather. One day, Louis was playing in his father's shop and picked up a small tool with a very sharp point. Louis fell, the point of the tool entered his eye, and later he became blind in both eyes. Although he was then only 7 or 8 years old, Louis had to walk with a cane in order to feel where he was going. The people of the town felt very sorry when they saw this small boy, completely blind, feeling his way along the streets with his cane in order to find his way. A few years later, Louis went to a special school for the blind in Paris. There, he learned to read. That is, he learned to recognize the 26 letters of the alphabet by feeling them with his fingers. But the letters were several inches high and several inches wide. This was naturally a very primitive system of reading. A very short article filled several books, and each book weighed 8 or 9 pounds. Part 2. Later, Louis became a teacher in this same school. He wanted to find a better system of reading for the blind, but it was not easy. One day, a visit home, he said to his father, "Blind people are the loneliest people in the world. I can tell one bird from another by its sound. I can know the door of the house by feeling it with my hand. But there are so many things which I cannot hear and cannot feel. Only books can free the blind, but there are no books for us to read." One day, Louis was sitting in a restaurant with a friend. The friend was reading the newspaper to Louis. The friend read an article about a French army captain who had a system of writing which he could use in the dark. He called it night writing. In this night writing, the army captain used the system of dots and dashes. The dots and dashes were raised on the paper so that a person could feel them with his fingers. When Louis heard about it, he became very excited. He began to talk loudly and to cry. "Please, Louis," said his friend, "what is the matter? Everyone is looking at you." "At last, I have found the answer to the problem of the blind," said Louis. "Now, blind people can be free." Part 3. The next day, Louis went with a friend to see the army captain. Louis asked the army captain about his system. The army captain said that he used a tool with a sharp point to make dots and small dashes in thick paper. A person could feel these dots and dashes on the other side of the paper. Certain marks meant one thing, other marks meant another thing. The tool which the army captain used was the same kind of tool which Louis had played with years before when he fell one day and the sharp point entered his eye. "I am sure that we can use this system," said Louis, "to help blind people read and to give them books." It was a wonderful day for Louis. Later, he began to study this new system for use with the blind. He studied different ways of making dots and dashes on paper. At last, he arrived at a simple system in which he used 6 holes within a small space. With these 6 holes in different positions within this space, he could make 63 different combinations. Each combination indicated a letter of the alphabet or a short word. There were even combinations to indicate punctuation marks. Soon Louis wrote a book using the Braille system. At first, people did not believe that this system of Louis Braille was possible or practical. One time, Louis spoke before a group of people. He showed how he could write by making these holes in paper almost as fast as someone could read to him. Then he read back easily what he had written. But the people did not believe Louis. They said that it was impossible to do this. They said that Louis had learned by memory what he had read to them. Everywhere it was the same thing. People did not believe Louis. For one reason or another, they did not want to believe him. Even the French government did not want to hear anything about Louis' system. They said that they were already doing everything possible for the blind. Part 4. Louis continued to work with this system. He was now a very sick man, and each year he became sicker. But he worked and worked with his system to make it better. He worked out a system of marks for mathematics and for music. One day, a girl who had been blind since she was born played a piano beautifully before a large audience. Everyone in the audience was very pleased. Then the girl got up and said that the people should not thank her for playing so well. They should thank Louis Braille. It was Louis Braille, she said, who had made it possible for her to learn music and to play the piano. She also told them that Louis Braille was a very sick man. She said that he was dying. Suddenly, after so many years, everyone became interested in Louis Braille. The newspapers wrote articles about him. The government also became interested in his system of reading for the blind. Some of Louis' friends went to his home to see him. He was sick in bed. They told him what had happened. Louis began to cry. He said, "This is the third time in my life that I have cried. First, when I became blind. Second, when I heard about night writing. And now, because I know that my life has not been a failure." A few days later, Louis Braille died. He was only 43 years old when he died.